Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. I brought the Kindle because we're going to talk about a book, kind of. It's more about, not necessarily about the book, but I didn't read the book. I listened to the book. And I have said many, many, many times on this show over the last 8 years that I can't do audiobooks. I have a really hard time paying attention to somebody else talking. I can sit and read for hours, and my attention span is fine, and I can take everything in, and I don't feel the need to do other things or to like pause and check on my phone or whatever. But when I'm listening, I'm very not engaged. And I end up thinking, well, I'll go do the dishes, and then I'll start doing the dishes, and I'll start thinking about something else, and the podcast is still playing, but it's just become white noise at that point, and I'm not paying any attention. I do that with podcasts. I do that with books. I'll go thinking I can put my headphones on, I can go for a walk, I can listen to a book. And I've tried this many times over the years. I've tried to do work in here. I'll work on, whatever the project is that I'm currently working on. I'll have a book playing, and the next thing I realize is it's been an hour and I have not heard anything that the book said. But my friend Dennis said that he listened to, or he read, I'm not sure which one it is, a book called, I'm having a brain fart right now. You can see it in the title. Maybe you're trying to finish that sentence for me. The Wager. A book called The Wager, and it's about a shipwreck and stranded crew in like the 1750s or something like that, 1740s, I don't know, something 1700s, off the coast of, I don't know where. It was on the bottom part of South America, on the Pacific side. And I don't often, I very rarely read historical books. But he said it was really fascinating. It was a good story, and the writer was, it was a very engaging story. And so I decided, well, I'll try to listen to it because when somebody gives me a book recommendation, I tend to try it. Like, I'll give it a shot because if nothing else, it gives me something else to talk with that person about and go, hey, I read the book. It was great, whatever. And then, here's a book that I read. Maybe you should try that, whatever. I enjoy that side of friendship and specifically reading. So it was really fun. Or it was really part of the reason why I decided to listen to this book. I went and looked at my local library. They had it for available, so I just borrowed it. I borrowed the book on Libby, put on the headphones, and I listened to it, and it worked. I was able to listen to that book all the way through, maintain a pretty high level of attention span, and what I discovered was when I'm listening to fiction or a narrative story, let's say that, when I'm listening to a narrative story, which I could argue that The Wager is a narrative story, but it's a narrative story told in a whole bunch of tiny chunks that don't necessarily link together. You don't need to remember stuff from before. The author does a really good job of giving context to each individual chunk, and you don't need to have a full, maintain a picture of the whole thing. Whereas with a fiction book, oftentimes you need to maintain pieces of that book in memory the whole time you're reading it. I didn't feel that way about this book, which is point number one. Point number two, I was able to listen to it at like 1.5 times speed. The narrator, very good narrator, speaks very slowly. I probably could have gone to 2 times speed, but I think if I had gone to 2 times, I listen to, or I watch YouTube almost exclusively on 2 times speed. I find even, you feel free. I find that most people speak slow enough that I can just plow through the video. And there's so much chaff, I don't necessarily need to watch the whole thing. I'm just here for a point. Let's move along. So anyway, 1.5 times speed kept me engaged because I felt like I needed to listen a little closer because he was speaking a little faster. Honestly, the narrator's 1.5 times speed is about how fast I'm talking right now. So it wasn't like I was listening to a sped up tape. He was a very slow narrator to begin with, which meant that the book that I think the full book is like 8 hours, 8.5 hours or something like that. I got through it in like 5 something or something like that, which is fine, right? And I listened to it in chunks. I was able to listen to it while cooking. I was able to listen to it while walking. And I felt like I didn't have to give it all of my attention. And if I found myself slipping, it was okay to pause. It was okay to rewind 10 seconds and listen again. I didn't have to rewind minutes because I never felt like I missed anything that important, right? Honestly, there isn't anything that important. The whole book is, as its whole, is very cool and very important. But the minutia, not that important. Not that important at all. And it worked. I was able to listen to the whole book and felt fully engaged the entire time. Very much enjoyed the process. So, maybe I found a way to listen to some books, at least. And probably more like historical or maybe even, not necessarily self-help, but autobiographical or biographical books, stuff like that, I could probably listen to and maintain a little bit more focus. So I might try that again. I don't know what I would read next, but I'm really happy that I listened to The Wager. It was a very, very good book. If you like naval history, if you like shipwrecks, I've always been into piracy and shipwrecks, and I've designed like 4 or 5 pirate games at this point. These weren't pirates, but they were living through a situation that felt very close to piracy. When they do shipwreck, it devolves pretty quickly, right? And it's a very interesting tale about factions and old timey like adherence to we are still members of the King's Royal Navy. We still have to obey the King's Royal decrees, and and that gentlemanly society, that attempt to maintain order even in the face of absolute disaster was a really fun, engaging part of the book. The author did a fantastic job of telling the story. I want to say objectively. I mean, I guess it's not like he was there, so it's not like he has a side in the thing. But he did read, I guess there was like 3 or 4 accounts of this story told from various different crew members who kept logbooks. And apparently those logbooks were a very like sensational thing. They were published as books about this adventure. And so he like worked his way through to try to find the real story in all of this. Find the what's the truth, is whose version of this story is true. Because as we all know, when you ever have a situation like that, nobody's account is the real story. Like they all have bias. But it was fantastic. It was a fantastic book. It was a fantastic listen. And I'm very happy that I gave it a shot. And I'm very happy that I found I could listen to it. That was cool. So, yeah, that's The Wager. And that's my experience listening to an audiobook for the first time, probably in 4 years. I don't remember when the last time I attempted an audiobook was. Probably 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Okay. You got any other recommendations for historical or biographies or anything like that I should read? Let me know. Put it in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking it, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful people do differently. We are learning 19 quick tricks to feel better instantly. And today is number 6, take a light exercise break. Do a few sets of jumping jacks to get your blood moving, or take a walk. Even the slightest bit of exercise can reduce momentary stress and re-energize your mind. I have found, so when I started doing the walking thing, I started in the mornings, and it was fine. Like, it was a way to wake up and get going. But what I discovered was doing it at lunchtime was far superior. I was usually at that point in the day, I wake up at like 5. So by noonish when I go walking, I've already been awake for 7 hours. It's like a good time for me to just hit a reset. And it covers yesterday's topic of going outside, or yesterday's like thing of going outside, exercise, stretching. I do all of that. And it's fantastic. I still do my PT in the mornings though, so I'm exercising kind of twice a day. If that matters, I don't know that it does.